All right, let's dive right in. Today, we're going to tackle one of the biggest, most brain-breaking questions anyone can ever ask. If our universe is everything, then what's outside of it?
And, this whole explainer got started because of this. A post on Reddit from someone who called themselves a dumb 17-year-old kid. But they asked a question that scientists and philosophers have been wrestling with for, well, forever.
So let's just get one thing straight right now. That is not a dumb question, not even close. It is a fantastic, brilliant question that cuts right to the heart of what reality even is. And to even start to answer it, we got to make sure we're all on the same page.
Okay, so first up, when a cosmologist talks about the universe, they could actually be talking about two totally different things. And honestly, understanding this difference is the secret key to unlocking this whole puzzle. So on one side, you have the observable universe. The best way to picture this is to imagine you're on a ship in the middle of a vast ocean. You can only see as far as the horizon, right? That doesn't mean the ocean ends there, just that it's the limit of your vision. Our universe is like that. But then, there's the whole universe. That's everything, the entire ocean, not just the part we can see. And we honestly have no idea how big that really is. And just to put a number on it, that little bubble that we can see, our personal cosmic horizon, is about 93 billion light-years across. That number is almost meaninglessly huge, but it still might just be a tiny speck compared to the real thing.
Which, of course, leads to the next big question. If there's this whole universe out there, does it have an edge? Is there a cosmic cliff you could fly to and just peer over the side?
So let's do a thought experiment. You're in a super advanced spaceship. You just pick a direction and you go. Forever. Would you eventually hit a wall? A sign that says you've reached the end? Well, believe it or not, the answer completely depends on the actual shape of space itself.
Right now, scientists have three main ideas for what that shape could be. First, it could be positively curved, kind of like the surface of a giant sphere. In that case, the universe is finite and two parallel lines would eventually meet. Second, it could have zero curvature. In other words, it's perfectly flat, like a sheet of paper that goes on forever. In a flat universe, space is infinite. And third, it could be negatively curved, shaped like a saddle or a Pringle chip. This one would also be infinite, but parallel lines would actually spread apart from each other over time. But here is where your brain starts to melt a little bit. Finite doesn't automatically mean there's an edge. Just think about walking on the surface of the Earth. You can go in one direction forever, and you'll never fall off a cliff. You just loop around and come right back to where you started. Space could be exactly like that, finite but boundless. And just to make it even weirder, some theories suggest the universe could be shaped like a giant four-dimensional donut or a torus. In a universe like that, if you flew out the top, you just reappear from the bottom. It's another way for space to be finite but have absolutely no edge to speak of. Okay. So that kind of handles the edge and the outside part of the question. But what about the other part, the expansion? This is probably the single biggest misunderstanding people have about the universe. It's the most intuitive question ever, right? When we see something expand in our daily lives, it has to push into the space around it. So what empty space is the universe expanding into? The answer is nothing. And I know how weird that sounds. Let's try the famous balloon analogy. Okay, picture a balloon. The key here is to think of the entire universe as only the two-dimensional surface of the balloon. The inside and outside don't exist in this analogy. Now draw a bunch of dots on it. Those are your galaxies. When you blow up the balloon, the rubber itself stretches. The dots get farther apart, not because they're flying across the surface, but because the very space between them is expanding. And that is the absolute crucial point. The universe isn't a bomb exploding outward into some bigger empty room. The fabric of spacetime itself, everywhere, all at once, is stretching. The galaxies are just being carried along for the ride. Now, I know what you're thinking. This all sounds like some pretty wild, abstract stuff. But how do we actually know it's true? Is there any real proof? Oh yeah, there absolutely is. And it comes from the oldest light we can possibly see. It's called the cosmic microwave background, the CMB for short. You can think of it as the baby picture of the universe. It's the faint, leftover glow of heat from the Big Bang, and it fills every single corner of space. It is literally the echo of creation. So here's the cool part. By using incredibly sensitive telescopes, like the Planck satellite, we can study tiny temperature differences in that ancient light. And those tiny variations tell us the shape of the universe. The data we've gotten back is overwhelming.
It tells us the universe is almost perfectly flat. And if it's flat, well, that strongly implies that it goes on forever, that it's infinite.
Okay, so if the universe is infinite, that opens a door to a whole other level of mind-bending possibilities. Because if you have an infinite amount of space, what else might be out there?
This leads us to something called the level 1 multiverse. And the logic is surprisingly simple. If space goes on forever, but there's only a finite number of ways you can arrange particles, then eventually the patterns have to repeat. That means, far, far beyond what we can see, there could be another you reading this exact same sentence.
And that's just the beginning. There are other theories that propose our entire universe is just one bubble in a sea of countless others, maybe with totally different laws of physics. Or that every time a quantum decision is made, a whole new parallel universe splits off from our own. It gets wild fast.
All right, let's bring it all home. We've talked about the difference between the observable and the whole universe. We have talked about shape and expansion. So what's the final answer to that 17-year-old's incredible question?
The real answer might be that we're asking the wrong question. Our human brains are built for a world with insides and outsides, but that concept might just not apply to the universe as a whole. Asking what's outside the universe is like asking what's north of the North Pole. The question itself kind of falls apart.
So let's just do a quick review. Our universe is most likely infinite, stretching on forever. And even if it's not, it's finite in a way that's boundless, like a sphere, where it just wraps back on itself. Either way, there is no edge. There's nothing to look beyond. And the expansion isn't happening into some void. It's space itself getting bigger, everywhere.
And that leaves us with one final, absolutely massive thought to sit with. If the universe truly is infinite, then simple statistics say that somewhere, way out there, there's another version of you. In fact, there are infinite versions of you, living out every single choice you ever could have made. Kind of makes you wonder, what's that other you up to right now?